Polls have failed us, but now cash talks. Peter Thiel's Founders Fund just invested $200 million into Polymarket. Blockchain prediction markets are hitting a $1 billion implied cap. Crowd wisdom could change everything, from election forecasts to portfolio hedging. Are you ready for the next asset class? Watch the full video to discover how event-based trading could redefine risk and returns.
So let's go to this next one that you have here. This one I find fascinating because I have a really interesting insight on this one, a little differentiated. You wrote prediction markets go mainstream. Peter Thiel has invested $200 million in Polymarket, the blockchain prediction market, valuing it at $1 billion. So jump into it. Tell us what you're thinking here.
All right. So first of all, for the people who don't know, Polymarket and their competitors, Kalshi and PredictIt, what they do is they provide the markets with the wisdom of the crowd probability kind of thing. And you can go bet on all kinds of outcomes. So, when people think about betting, they think about going to Vegas and, a roulette wheel or poker or blackjack, or, you may think about sports betting. You bet on one team to win or cover the spread, something like that. These prediction markets will allow people to bet on things like who's going to win an election or who's going to win a primary, or whether the Federal Reserve will raise or lower interest rates, or whether we're going to be in a war or a war will stop by a certain date. And so what's really interesting about all of this to me isn't so much the fact that people get to wager on all kinds of stuff that previously they couldn't wager on. The thing that I find interesting about it is all of the data in terms of what the odds are, how many people have bet, the size of bets on each side, the size of relative bets, right? Not just we have X number of dollars bet on one side and Y dollars on the other side, but are these big bets? Are they small bets? Is the big money betting one direction and lots of smaller people in the other? These are all things that you can use to get a sense of what people think is going to happen. Now, for certain things, I don't really care, right? I don't care what the majority of people think the Federal Reserve is going to do. I'll have my own opinions on that. But these kinds of things can be very valuable in terms of elections, where these prediction markets tend to be a lot more accurate than our pollsters have been for the last few election cycles. So basically what these platforms do is they give people the opportunity to make all kinds of wagers, but for the rest of us, we get to sit and collect information from it. And this information, I promise you, is a lot more valuable than knowing if somebody's going to bet black or red on the next roulette spin.
Yeah, I think all that's true. And I'm going to just give you even another thing that I think is happening here, which I call the gamification of everything. What I like about Thiel's investment, I think Robinhood is going to buy one of these things for $2 billion. I mean, Robinhood's hitting new highs today. Market cap at Robinhood just hit. We've been huge fans of Robinhood. We recommended it to readers at like $20 a share in November. It hit 93 today, $81 billion market cap, 82 billion. But what I think is interesting is that we're beginning to see this ability for traders, consumers, etc., to essentially stake a bet on just about anything out there. So if anyone here is on a sports betting fan, I'm not a big participant, but like sports betting is ridiculous. Like DraftKings, it's like, okay, is the next pitch going to be a curveball? Like you can bet on that stuff. I'm not here to make a moral statement about whether that's good or bad for society or any given individual. I'm just saying it exists. We're going to see, in my opinion, unless there's some big regulatory thing, the same thing happen, not just for stocks, but for politics, for any number of things. I mean, the big thing with Robinhood today was they've announced tokenization of stocks. So you can buy a token that represents a stock, which kind of seems like the stock. I don't know. It's a little confusing. But I think that these markets, when we talk about these prediction markets, there's something they are today something that people kind of know a little bit about. I think in 10 years, we're going to be, ESPN runs the betting lines on NFL games on the screen while you're watching ESPN. I think in 5 years, we're going to see, whether it's Kalshi or PredictIt or Polymarket, the betting lines on stuff being run on CNN. Where they're going to be saying, hey, this is what's going to happen next. So, I think that this is just something that it has some great investment value. But this is a change, an evolution that I see happening that's going to be part of everyday life for any investor.
Well, here's a thought for you, right? Frequently, Wall Street, we are on the edge of our seats for an employment report or for a sales report, right? All kinds of economic reports. Do you want to bet on the Bureau of Labor Statistics getting it right or millions of Americans making bets on what they're seeing? So, for instance, I would take, if we're looking like at a retail sales number, I would take a Kalshi or PredictIt bet over the Bureau of Labor Statistics to get it right. And you get that information a whole lot faster. So that's one way to think about it. But let me ask you a question about your prediction, which I think is a really interesting one. You're saying that Robinhood could potentially buy one of these markets. Now, I know you're not, putting a time frame on it, but I'm wondering if you thought about the regulatory aspects of it, because obviously stock trading is highly regulated. And for a lot of these prediction markets, at least at a minimum, in some of these platforms, U.S. citizens are not allowed to bet, or at least not allowed to legally bet. So would there be regulatory issues with Robinhood trying to run a regulated trading versus a prediction market in the same platform?
I mean, call it a crypto token, and no. I mean, the Trump administration has walked back from literally every piece of legislation. I mean, I'm going to say something funny. As long as Trump media gets a cut, I don't think it'll matter. And I'm not being, that sounds super cynical, but I'm not really. Like, some of the things that the Trump administration has done in crypto are absolutely the most disgusting things I've ever seen in 40 years of looking at politics. Okay. And by the way, I'm a big fan of a bunch of other stuff that Trump has done. I think we are in a regulatory environment for the next 3 years where all those bets are off. And I'm not kidding. If Robinhood were just to tokenize it, you probably could get away with it. So I think if it was ever going to happen, it's going to happen now. And then the question becomes, if there's a new administration or what have you, do they step it back? I don't think that'll be the case. I mean, this is going to go way back. People don't remember that, like, interest rates on credit cards were highly regulated and you couldn't actually charge interest rates the way people do. And then the interest rates got crazy and then we had pushback. This is the way that financial regulation goes. So would it be regulated? Absolutely. Will that regulation have any impact? I don't think in the next 3 years. Like I said, if Trump's can make some money off it, they'll figure out a way to make it legal.
I'll tell you what, you know who the guy is who's really well positioned to benefit from something like that? Michael Guyad. He just launched a new ETF focusing on deregulation, focusing on companies that will benefit from deregulation.
Well, Robinhood would be right there. So, and Polymarket if it were public, but maybe there'll be a token on it soon.